Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here. This was the copy of Samurai Jack that was already on my pull list, and I didn't have the heart to tell the comic book shop owner to put it back. So uh, I'm gonna review it. The last time I reviewed a comic book without reading it was Not Brand Ek, where my whole point was, even without reading it, the drawing demonstrated how that book was going to be much funnier than Squirrel Girl. And looking back on that video, I think that was actually a very strong video. So I have not read one word in this book, but I have looked at it carefully without reading the words. And I was right. I've already read this story twice in a row, and they're going to retell this exact same plot 3 more times before they even set up the characters and the action. So, dream sequence. Ugly Jack is trapped in a cybernetic suit, and there's a whole bunch of weirdos in the suit with him, and they're piloting this giant robot. And actually, this isn't that bad. It's establishing a sense of scale. This robot design is pretty much just a recolor of a giant robot in the show. That robot was a villain that was destroying the city, and this is a robot that Jack and the team are piloting. So, I don't know. It's evoking the show by essentially copying a design from it and giving it a fresh take. So whatever, it's kind of a cool redesign. That was a cool, even though it was a bad guy robot, it was kind of a cool robot. So they're reinventing that a little bit. And this wasn't as bad as the first 2 issues, even though I haven't read a word of it, because it established that sense of scale and it built up the weight and the heaviness of the robot marching out. The faces are still too wonky, and I want those to be a bit more handsome and heroic. But the monster looks, just kind of just a cool kaiju type thing. And I think there was a cooler build-up. This idea of how do you do it? You pace it by building up the threat, and then by helping the audience understand what's going on. So in the last one, a million people were wrestling, and who knows what's supposed to be happening or what the tone of the fight is. This has a better sense of tone. It's evoking the idea of a kaiju monster movie, and generally I'm more happy with this one than the last 2. That was kind of the surprise. I was just expecting to roast the hell out of this, but I'm generally actually more happy with how this one felt reading it silently than I was with the first 2, but Jack still is hideous and doesn't look like Jack. And that arm is atrocious. They're trying to do a thing where that's evoking that idea. They should have just zoomed in on Jack rather than giving him this giant gorilla arm. I guess I read one word, boom, because I couldn't help it. And it's even reflecting in the guy's eyes. That's kind of cute. And again, when it's an alien scene of like a crowd of people, it works because they would be really loosey-goosey in how background characters were drawn in that show. But the principal characters would be very tightly designed and very tightly drawn. So, once again, we have the same thing where almost at the exact same pace to the page, he has a vision of the real Jack, and then he snaps himself out of it, and he gets his samurai sword. And then after he cuts through the monster, then some little ants come out, and he grabs a real sword and dives out of the robot. So this is kind of the reverse of that episode where first he fought the little robots, and then he got a samurai giant robot to fight the evil giant robot. In this one, he was already in the giant robot and then goes to fight the little things mano a mano outside the robot. I don't really understand. Again, I haven't read a word of this, so maybe the dialogue will explain some of it, but I have no idea what the purpose of the other characters is. Oh, there's just kind of an okay relation of that to that, except his arm looks hideous and distorted there. So the parallelism falls flat because I'm just thinking about how he doesn't look that good. Oop, I can't show it. Okay, so hope I didn't show everything, but disappointing. Sometime I think I gave away my old Samurai Jack comics ages ago, so I'll probably just get the digital editions of the ones they made a few years ago and do a compare and contrast with this new series. I've already taken this off my pull list, so this is the last one. Pretty much, I've confirmed I'm right, and without reading a word of this, I know exactly what it's going to be, and it still has the weaknesses of the first 3 issues, but actually a better paced fight just by looking at it. The fight was more interesting to look at than the first 2. So, number one Marmaduke fan, catch you later.